So we're going to jump right in. Let me grab my phone real quick so I can look at Goodreads to see where the order lies. So the books that I read this month was 14 in total, um, which is a fairly decent month. Could have read more probably, but life and shit happens. So it wasn't as many. Usually I aim for like 15, 16, but 14, it's only one off for my average. So we'll be all right. We'll make it up in the back half of the year. So just as a note, the books that I don't have physical copies of, whether they be audiobook or ebook that I consume them in, I will flip a picture up on that side. Not that side. I'll flip a picture up where I usually do over here. Yep. So let's dive into it. The first book was the Complete Crow by Brian Lumley. So this is a collection of short stories about his character Titus Crow, which then goes on into his series about Titus Crow, which I also read a couple of those this month as well. I haven't done book reviews on those yet because I think I'm waiting until I finish the series and I'll just do a series review instead of individual book reviews on that. Because I don't want to get too spoilery. But The Complete Crow, this was the first thing that I've read from Brian Lumley. And I was on that cosmic horror kick that kind of started everything off. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm in on this. So yeah, we read The Complete Crow, and that was fantastic. The next book is also by Brian Lumley, and this is book one in that Titus Crow series that he has, and that is The Burrowers Beneath. Um, this is a great first installment. I mean, we get to know Titus Crow a little bit during the short stories because they're kind of like a prologue to the book series because he wrote the short stories before he went into the book series proper and did the 6 books I think or 7 books somewhere around there of the Titus Crow series. But first we get the Complete Crow, and then we get Burrows of the Deep or Burrowers Beneath, which is just a fantastic book. It was kind of short, it as they typically are. Um, I'm kind of hoping they come out with like an omnibus of this if it doesn't exist already, so I could get the physical copy of all the books instead of having to hunt them down like vintage wise. I mean, I don't mind doing that either. I do love my vintage books, but I'm kind of hoping they have like an omnibus edition that I can use as like a reading copy because these ones I would definitely go back to these. They're really nice compact horror stories in the Cthulhu mythos kind of vein. So yeah, that was The Burrowers Beneath. That was book 2 this month. So book 3 this month was the Collected Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard. Um, so I read this book probably once every other year, kind of like the same with what I do with Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft. I kind of go through all of them every other year. So this is obviously the other year where we're going through Clark Ashton Smith, we're going through Robert E. Howard, we're going through H.P. Lovecraft, we're hitting all the big three. So this is the first one I read this year, which is crazy. I usually start with like Solomon Kane because he's my favorite, but usually I start with him. But this time we started with the Collected Horror Stories, probably because I'm on that cosmic horror in general kick right now. These are some fantastic fucking stories. I mean, the this is the quintessential collection of his horror stories. A lot of his mid southwestern horror is in here. Worms of the Earth is in here, which is just freaking fantastic. What is it? People. Shit. Let me go to the table of contents here because there's just so many good stories in here. The Blackstone, The Dweller in the Dark Valley, People of the Dark, which is what I was thinking of there. Like there's just so much of his good horror in this that like you can't pass this up. If you like horror, if you like Robert E. Howard, this is the ultimate collection. This Del Rey set that we have, and this is like kind of the quintessential Robert E. Howard collection as of right now, other than the Robert E. Howard Foundation books, the REH books that are coming out and have been coming out for the past several years. So yeah, after the horror stories of Robert E. Howard, we had Fatal Terrain by Dale Brown. Now this I did read on ebook, but I just love showing the hardcovers, minus that little price sticker up there, which I'm trying to figure out how to take that off without damaging the cover even more. Because I got all these hardcover books from Dale Brown secondhand. But this was a fantastic entry or not entry point, but another fantastic novel in the series of Patrick McClanahan. He just, he's already been one of my favorite authors, and I read the Dreamland series first because, I kind of went into it without doing any research, and I got hooked on that series, and then realized that the Patrick McClanahan series was like kind of his main thing. And so I started reading that this year. And yeah, these books have been blowing me away. I mean, Patrick McClanahan is a great main character. You got General Elliot in this one, doing crazy General Elliot things, and just it's just fantastic. It's these books, even though they were written, so this one was written, shit, when was it written? I think I went over this in my review, and now I'm going to struggle to find it again because we like doing this more than once. This one was 1997. So, I mean, they're a little bit older, but even despite the date, the same geopolitical consequences that are happening in these books are happening even today. With the conflict with China, conflict with Iran, like these things are all ongoing still. So, Dale Brown, he can predict the future. So, better read them so that you know what's coming. You know what I'm saying? Um, So after that, we went to It Rides a Pale Horse by Andy Marino. As you know, if you watch the review on this book, I absolutely love this book. Um, Andy Marino, this was his kind of first in second iteration of him writing adult books. The first one was the Possession of somebody. Um, I can't remember it right now, but he has another adult book before this one. But this one was the first one I picked up. I saw this cover on the shelf on there, and I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. I like horsehead, death looking things, and it's made a reference to It Rides a Pale Horse, so that's obviously death of some sort. Um, it was sold as like more of a cosmic horror on the reviews and videos that I watched on YouTube. Um, but I mean, there's cosmic elements, but it was a fantastic book nonetheless, just in the horror genre. So even if you're looking for cosmic horror, I would still check this out. It has some cosmic elements towards the end, but definitely worth your time because Andy Marino is fast becoming one of my instant buy authors. So we got The Swarm, we got his first book, and we're going to be checking those out in soon enough. So the next one we went to a classic and we did The Cossacks by Leo Tolstoy. Um, this Tolstoy, if you're not one of epics like War and Peace or like Anne Karenina or that those kind of books, um, it definitely hits different than those type of books because this was short. I think it was like 168 pages. I don't know. I said in the review I did on the channel. It was 161 pages. And just like what he can do in 161 pages and give you a complete story that just, rings true the entire time that you read it is just fantastic. And that kind of skill, can't be taught. Fantastic storyteller, fantastic book. It takes place in the Caucasus region, which is like, Chechnya, the Republic of Georgia, like those kind of areas in that steppe, kind of right after Ukraine. Actually, it's the area that Russia and Ukraine are fighting over right now. So, basically, that whole region is where the Cossacks were, and I was always invested in the Cossacks just as a people. So, and this was a fantastic slice of life look at how the Cossacks live and what they did. So this was, definitely right up my alley. The next one we wrote, the next one we read was going back to Brian Lumley, and this is book number 2 in the Titus Crow Cthulhu Mythos series, and that is The Transition of Titus Crow. This book was fantastic. It continues in the vein off of the first one, and I won't go too much into depth because it gets into spoilery shit. But yeah, definitely check this book out. The transition of Titus Crow is fantastic. Um, the next one we read was The Clock of Dreams, also by Brian Lumley. This is book number three in the Titus Crow series. This one was fantastic as well. This one doesn't have so much to do with Titus Crow as it does a secondary character that tells the Titus Crow stories. Um, but it was still really good. Um, it definitely follows its own kind of thing because we're following a completely different story and character that the series is. We're not following the character the series is named after, so we don't get a lot of Titus Crow in this book, but it's still fantastic. The next one I read was Spawn of the Winds. Um, this was book four in the Titus Crow series. I read a whole bunch of, or I read and slash listened to a bunch of these while my kid was doing travel baseball during the month of April because it was busy as hell with that. So we were on the road a lot. But yeah, so I read this, I read and listened to this one when we were on the car ride there and back, and while we were at the games, I was flipping through it on my Kindle because of that read along feature where you could get the audiobook and it kind of saves your place on the Kindle thing. Um, so yeah, I read that one. This one's fantastic as well. This one reminded me a lot of At the Mountains of Madness, because we revisit some of that history there. So if you haven't read the At the Mountains of Madness, I would definitely suggest reading that before reading Spawn of the Winds, just so that you have a little bit more background of like what the hell they're talking about when they're referencing shit. Um, but yeah, that one was a fantastic read. I'm quickly finding out that Brian Lumley is going to be one of those authors that I need to check out more of. He has a ton of short story collections out there and just a ton of like fiction in general. So yeah, check him out because Brian Lumley is pretty cool. I like him, and I bought Necroscope um, on Audible, so we're gonna check that out at some point. And I'll flash a picture of that up here. That's book one of his weird ass vampire series. That's not what it's called. It's not called the weird ass vampire series. I don't know what it's called. It's called the Necroscope series. I'm pretty sure, but it's about weird ass vampire shit. So that had me. The next one we read after that is Robert E. Howard's Sailor Steve Costigan, The Complete Collection of Published Stories. Um, so this one's pretty good. I like Steve Costigan as a character. He's definitely one of the more humorous characters that Robert E. Howard came up with. And most of these stories were not published in Weird Times, but they were published in Action Tales and some of the boxing magazines. Um, because Steve Costigan is primarily boxing stories. I mean, there's some of the weird kind of supernatural stuff that goes on sometimes, and you could definitely tell that it's Robert E. Howard, but this is such a different character from Cull and Conan and Solomon Kane and even El Barak. Like this is just a different character, and it's so good in some ways where just you get to see another side of the Robert E. Howard that you don't get to see in some of his darker fiction. Um, a lot of the humor in this comes out, and it's funny as hell. It does have that period racism for sure, specifically towards like East Asians and African Americans. Um, so if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, this might not be for you. But if you can look past that at the brilliance of the writing and the storytelling, it's definitely worth your time because there's not a lot of people that know Robert E. Howard other than the Conan series and stuff like that. So if you can dive into this, I would. Um, so the next one, which I forgot to pull out because I'm a piece of shit, is The Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, which I did a review on the channel. This is a reread. This book is fantastic. Go watch the review. Um, the next one is Volume Two of the Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. This one was also a reread, but we're going back to Robert E. Howard and Clark Ashton Smith, so we had to hit HP in there somewhere. So yeah, I did a review of both the two volumes of the complete fiction omnibus collection of H.P. Lovecraft by Pulp Lit Productions. So go check that out because that was a pretty good video. Um, the next one was the Collected Fantasies of Clark Ashton Smith, Volume 1, The End of the Story. This book was fantastic. This is another reread that I read every other year. So going back through the Clark Ashton Smith stories is just fantastic. He's a fantastic writer. His prose is poetic to the point of just beautiful writing. His plot is pretty good as well. He was one of the big three at Weird Tales, and you could just tell that by his prose that he was just one of the most fantastic writers of weird fiction. And then finally, we read Don DeLillo's Americana, and this was the final book that I read this month. And yeah, this one was 5 out of 5 stars, and completely recommend that you read this one because this one just blew my mind. Even a day and a half later now, I'm still just like, well, it still is having me think about it, which is the sign that it's a really fantastic read. So yeah, definitely recommend Don DeLillo's Americana because that was primo stuff. As well as White Noise and basically anything else by Don DeLillo at this point, I assume. I did a review on this and White Noise from Don DeLillo. It's the two I've read so far. We're reading End Zone this month. And if you want to see what I'm reading this month, you can watch that May TBR video. I don't know how to put the links up here yet, so you're going to have to search it yourself. But other than that, that's what I've been up to. That's what I've read in April. And until next time, read.